What's up, everyone? Welcome to Level 7. It is time for another episode of the Agents of Fandom podcast. And holy shit, it has been a while since an episode of television has made me nervous and anxious and just filled with adrenaline like this one just did. Daredevil Born Again is doing it for me. Let me tell you, everybody, my name is TJ Zwarych. Joining me, as always, to talk about this wonderful episode of Daredevil, I have my co-host and good friend, Damon Gray. Damon, how you doing?
Hello. Good evening. Good night for everyone. Wow. What an episode of television, man. What an episode. I was expecting...
I see. When do you leave?
Tomorrow.
For those who don't know, Damon is on his way to Germany for work. And so he's got a, if you hear him speaking some German in this episode, that's why. But sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it was a great episode. I was expecting more action. I don't know why, someone like to talk about this episode. I thought this would be like a big action-packed episode. And once again, it still makes me laugh that I think some of the talk about the whole the one-on-one conversation that the original adaptation had, we may not be seeing that much of it. And it's that's most of this iteration of the series is the one-on-one discussions and those amazing moments. And that's what's been carrying, that's what carried this episode, was those one-on-one conversations. And there's so many of them, and they're so high pressure, intense, very well written. Really enjoyed it.
We have a very, very special episode of the Agents of Fandom podcast coming for you today. Thank you to everyone who is joining us live. Smash the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I know we say it all the time, but honestly, please just, hit that like button. We want to grow this community, and we want the little words, right? The more we grow, the more opportunities we'll be able to get, like something we have today. We have some very special guests joining us for a portion of today's show to talk about Daredevil Born Again episode 8. They may or may not be involved with the show. And so they'll be joining us here shortly to talk about Daredevil Born Again. And we got some exciting stuff coming. We are less than a week away now, 6 days away from our very first The Last of Us Season 2 live show. We will be live every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, talking each episode of The Last of Us. We are a week and a half away from Andor Season 2, which we will have live shows for as well, breaking down. And plus, we got the Comic Corner coming every Thursday with some fun interviews coming. I've been talking to Fat Thor, and he's been cooking up some interviews. So some great stuff coming to the Agents of Fandom YouTube page. So make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell. With one episode to go, do you think Daredevil Born Again can rival Loki, rival WandaVision, if they stick the landing here for the top season of Marvel television? And in my opinion, rival Miss Marvel, and in yours, rival Hawkeye.
Yes. And I mean, I will also have to put out there the X-Men 97 show as well. It's been a great season of television. And it has, and it shows that those few extra episodes absolutely help. The longer episode length absolutely helps in that as well. But if this episode, this penultimate episode, felt deserved of not being a big fight that I was actually expecting, but a really big twist that I don't think anyone was expecting by the end of this. So I think this penultimate episode is very deserved of this moment. I am fascinated to see what they do with the finale, whether it is a good wrap to the season, which it should be, or it more focuses on setting things up for season 2. Because there's so much still in this world, specifically Daredevil and Kingpin, that we are nowhere near finishing yet.
Really nowhere near finishing. And we'll get to the big twists that happen towards the end of this episode later on. But I would have said earlier, before watching episode 8, I would have said, like, maybe it could, but it's going to have to really stick the landing to be up there at the very top of Marvel shows. Because while most Marvel shows, I think a lot of people will say the ending, or specifically the finales, necessarily haven't been the high point of the series. There are other Marvel series that have maybe been a little bit stronger leading up, but honestly, it's tough to say because this really feels like the most television show version of the entire of anything from Marvel Television that we've gotten so far too. And so before this episode, I would have said, maybe, but it'll be tough. They'll really have to stick the landing. After watching this episode, I think it has a very decent chance. And I keep going back to what Garrett wrote in his review of Daredevil Born Again up on agentsfandom.com, where he said this season, while some pieces are, stitched together and you can see that it had some production woes, it has all the makings for season 2 to be the best Daredevil season we've ever gotten. And I'm really starting to see those pieces of, there are points earlier in the season where we're like, okay, we maybe could have used a little bit more of that. Maybe could have used a little less of that. The editing here was a little odd. But as we get towards the end of the season, I feel like what they're setting up, and frankly, Charlie Cox's acting performances are some of the best I've ever seen him do as Daredevil, really feel to me like they're setting up a mainstay of Marvel Television for a long time. Like this, they're going to keep pumping out seasons of this show. They got some gold here.
Oh, no, for sure. And I think so far, when you compare where Fisk and Murdock were as characters in episode 1 to where they are now, the progression, the storytelling of it all, whether some people may feel like it's stitched, it doesn't really bother me that much or not. Like, you can see the progression, how they both got to this point that they get to in this episode, where Fisk is back to being full-on Kingpin, and Murdock is essentially full-on the lawyer side of things is just not cutting it anymore. Like, it's just not working. And it's fascinating to see, like, we got to see how they both got here, how they both got to this point. And I love that.
Want to shout out to the entire YouTube chat joining us live, but also we got Chris joining us, Chris Vito joining us live. I want to say quick congratulations on the wedding, my friend. Thank you so much for tuning in, saying a quick hello. We appreciate you, and we've got to get you. We've had Jenna on here before, but we got to get you on the Agents of Fandom podcast, I think. So thank you so much for tuning in. We will have our special guest joining us in approximately 5 minutes to come and talk about the episode. Very excited for that, but I think we might as well start diving into this one. So full spoiler warning, if you have not seen Daredevil Born Again episode 8, come back and join us when you have, but I feel like most of you have, so let's dive right into it. We start off with the first layer of the onion unraveling of the Bullseye mystery. Why did he kill Foggy Nelson at the beginning of episode 1 of this series? And the first part that unravels is he gets released to Gen Pop, and he immediately, fresh off the bat, he's like, I'm not supposed to be here. You can tell right the way he's reacting. He had some kind of deal in place. He had some kind of plan that was set in place for him. And we know, if you've seen season 3 of Daredevil, you know this dude needs structure. He needs a plan. As soon as he does not have it, he goes off the rails. And that's what's happening right from the beginning of this episode.
Yeah. And I have like my little comic book theories like in my head where it's like he's sniffing roses, and I was like, oh my God, he's working for the rose, everybody. He's working for the rose, whoever the rose is. Hey, maybe who set this whole thing up, maybe quote unquote the rose in the end, which would be kind of funny by name. So yeah, This version of Bullseye is so fascinating. It's such an intricate level of a character that well beyond his comic version, who is just kind of like insane, this iteration is just so meticulous, so methodical. And yeah, he is a psychopath, a sociopath. But I'm fascinated by him. I'm enthralled by this character, honestly. And I'm so glad that we got to see more of him. And I can't remember, was he not in the original iteration of this series when it was being developed?
No, he was not. I don't believe so.
That is like an incredible way to bring him in at the beginning. And then here, which I believe this is the first full episode that was like post restructure. First full one. So the importance of him as a character going forward, I think, is going to be fascinating. We can go in a few different directions with him after this episode, honestly. But I was actually just watching an interview from Brandon Davis's channel on Phase Hero, that how the directors love Bullseye and love Wilson as Bullseye. So it makes sense that they brought him over, and like the lighting decisions that they did, which is great. But what a character. What a character. And I hope we see more of him next season.
I do too. Couldn't agree more. I will allow the people a little bit of a peek behind the curtains. Wilson Bethel is not the special guest today that we've been teasing, but I have been talking to his people to try and set him something up to get him on the podcast. So we do still have our fingers crossed here. His rep told me he was interested. It's just about the scheduling. And I will say, even though we are not expecting him at all to come on the show today, he does have the StreamYard link. I sent the StreamYard link for in case he wants to pop in. But I don't think that's going to be happening today. That is not the special surprise guest we have been teasing for today's episode. I couldn't agree more. I love his performance, but like honestly, you talked about it when we were teasing the episode. There are so many points throughout this episode that are just like peak one-on-one interactions. And we get a great performance from Wilson Bethel off the hop, and then straight into when Matt and Heather Glenn are interacting with each other in their apartment. She's calling out Daredevil, putting him on par with Muse, saying that he was only there for himself, of course, not knowing that.
Dude, just tell her.
That could not be further from the truth.
Yeah, but just tell her.
Pressing this for so long, and he only did it to save her.
And if you told her, she would be like, "Oh, okay. We can discuss this. We can be like, I was there to protect you. And if you're still having issues with that, we can go through that. You're, a psychiatrist. We can discuss things and do a little mental assessment after the fact, but just tell her, man." I understand why we're not. Drama, storytelling, writer's decisions.
I think she was a little out of line here, but at the same time, when you were just almost murdered by a vigilante, but not a vigilante, by a serial killer, I understand why she was a little shook. And so I do not judge for being out of line for that scene whatsoever. But I do think it is so funny how, and don't get me wrong, I am not at all saying I'm happy Karen and Foggy aren't here. I miss Karen and Foggy very deeply in this season of television. But it's so funny after 3 seasons of Matt kind of dicking them around and just being like, I can't tell you what I'm doing, but I'm brooding. And they're just kind of like, fine. It's so funny seeing Heather just call him out on his bullshit every single time, every single minute that he's pulling it with her. We do have our very special guests arriving for today's show. You have seen them on the podcast before, and they're making their debut on our live show to break down episode 8. We got the Newton brothers, Taylor and Andy. Welcome to the show. Thank you. Oh, what did I just do? Thank you so much for joining us. There we go.
How's it going?
What's up, gents? How's it going?
So great to have you on. We're doing very well. This is Damon. I don't think you've met Damon before, but this is Damon, my co-host for the live shows. Gentlemen, episode 8, I think that might have been, I think that was for sure the best episode of the series we've gotten so far, but I think that might be near the top of my favorite Marvel television episodes ever.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's wild, right? Yeah, that's great to hear.
Yeah, no, when I came on, you were saying something about Foggy. You missed Foggy.
Right, we came in and it was like, I do miss my Foggy and Karen in the series, but it is kind of refreshing and hilarious to have Heather just constantly being like, Matt, this is bullshit. I see right through whatever's going on. You gotta tell me the truth, because
she calls it. She calls it. She knows
knows what she's doing.
Sure. Doesn't she say they're just boys? These are just boys with masks or something. Isn't that what she says to him when they're like,
something like that,
yeah.
Boys with masks, and called them cowards with masks a couple episodes ago.
That's right. Yeah.
It's going to be, when she inevitably finds out the truth, it's going to be a really, really interaction between the two of them. The chat is going crazy to have you guys here today. They are very excited. We are very thankful that you guys joined us. Rich is a music school graduate himself. He says he is loving what the two of you are doing this season.
Thanks, Richard.
Thanks, Rich.
This is a big Bullseye episode. So the first thing I want to ask you guys about is the Bullseye theme. Yep. Because what we know about this character from a mental health standpoint, he is struggling, right? He has some terror going on inside that mind.
Yes.
And his theme, I was actually listening to the whole score that's been released on Apple Music so far this morning. And his theme it's anxiety inducing. It makes me think of when my mental health is at its worst. What was the process? And Andy, I'll throw it to you first. What was the process for making Bullseye's theme?
I mean, that's kind of it, right? It's the chaos of it all, and we kind of embraced specifically, like, we kind of used the chaos from episode 1 of like what he does in that whole situation and how everyone feels in that situation, and trying to just like imagine what it would be like to be in the sights of someone like that, right? It feels, what's crazy is like it's calculated, but it's also not, and that's what we were sort of like working at. There's sort of a ticking that's happening in his theme, and that idea is like the calculation that he has. But then there's also like this crazy, like frenetic solo violin that's doing this like wild sort of line that's like not really it's just kind of wild and chaotic, like he is basically, you know. And that's sort of the idea, to make you feel very uncomfortable with him. So it's great to hear that it makes you feel anxiety, because that was the goal. It's hard with that stuff too, because you don't know, you know, like I feel like sometimes if you're trying too hard for something, you might miss it. So we were more going for like the emotional anxiety of like what he brings. And like I said, we kind of used like what they did in episode 1 and tried to capture that feeling as much as we could.
From the musical, from the like needle drop at the end of the episode to the music playing in the prison yard when we're seeing the blue flower, the violet, whatever that was, how much of the song choices throughout this episode that played a pretty big part, was that all you guys as well? Was that part of that done after the fact? Who chooses, outside of like, you know, the theme music and the score, how much of the music choices within the episode is you guys as well?
That was the music supervisor, actually, Justine. She chose the songs, and then she brings choices for the showrunner and the creatives to decide. And she's amazingly, wickedly talented. And so we were sort of that piece, that song that plays, the score kind of weaves in and out of it, and we kind of build into some of the sounds into the Daredevil as it comes out. Daredevil, I mean, sorry, Bullseye. Anyways, so that piece right there was fun.
Yeah, and it's a lot of the music, you know, the whole team is like very hip to music. Like the directors, Aaron and Justin are like super hip to music, Dario, Sana. So I think that like they were very like involved in sort of working with Justine In some cases, songs are in the script. In other cases, I think songs probably came. I don't know this for sure, but I think that some songs probably came up like while they were shooting as ideas, like, hey, let's try this here. And then I know they kind of like try things out between all of them. But everyone's a big music nerd who works on the show.
Dario's a great guitar player. We're gonna try to get him to play on something at some point, but he's a fantastic guitar player. So everyone loves music. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you guys ever are jamming and you need a singer, you feel free to give me a call. I'll hop on a plane and I'll be there ASAP.
Perfect.
We will.
Perfect.
Are you as these episodes drop each week and we're all going crazy on the internet, are you watching them alongside of us, or is it something kind of, you've already seen most of it, you catch up when you can?
Yeah, the very ending was a big push, so we didn't get to see the final finished, polished, mixed everything. But we did end up, seeing that. They sent us a link and stuff, and we saw that, and we were just like, oh my God, this is great. And it was just, kind of, it all comes together, all the stories, but we do hear, family members send us like texts and emails, and friends and colleagues, they're just like, God damn it, or like, yay, it's always a mixed bag.
Yeah, and I always have so I do Saturdays, like after I like to get up early on Saturday mornings, and after I kind of do a little like workout and drink gallons of coffee, I'll watch the episode or episodes that came out during the week, because usually during the week it's a little too chaotic, so I usually reserve that for Saturday morning.
It's so refreshing that you guys are nerds just like us, and it's so fun to get to talk to you guys about this stuff. And Damon and I were just talking before you guys got here, where he was saying if Daredevil Born Again, at the end of it, if this is not the best season of Marvel television yet, the top one is probably X-Men 97, which you guys also are directly involved in writing the theme as well. And so you're making top tier Marvel projects here. Damon, I want to throw it to you though, because I know you had a question.
Yeah, gentlemen, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time. This is great. There's a moment in this episode, and I love when this show goes back to its score, its title score, where Matt is talking to Kirsten, and he's very clearly losing it, and it goes back just to like the violin that da-da-da underneath, where it shows like he's completely unraveling, just like at the very beginning of the title sequence when everything completely falls apart. Do you see when you made that title score, like certain moments of aspects of that, where it falls apart and then it is rebuilding again?
Yeah, I think that there was definitely there's always an idea of like construction and deconstruction within the music, and it kind of happens. We kind of find the deconstruction in the construction, if that makes sense. I know it's kind of a backwards way to answer your question, but it's sort of like in the early writing of the music, we figure out like what sort of components of the music are good for working as tools of being like little hints of ideas to hint at what's happening within a scene without going over the top and having like the whole kitchen sink land. And that's really helpful to like, and to your point, like in that scene specifically, like it's important that you start to feel that, but you don't want it to get in the way of the scene, right? You want it to like just sort of creep in. And that component that you're speaking of is like one of the components that we kind of use throughout the season to kind of like bring in certain areas to sort of hint at that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, you go, Taylor.
No, he summed it up exactly. Go ahead, TJ.
I actually had a similar question on that vein. There's a conversation all the time about Batman. Who's the alter ego? Is it Bruce Wayne, or is it Batman? Who actually is the main one and who is the facade? And I feel like we get a little bit of that, or a lot of that, with Matt's and Daredevil as well. We see in the intro theme, the building and the deconstructing, as you said, of the statue throughout the theme. As we hear that intro music, like Damon said, in the moments with Kirsten, and specifically when Daredevil comes out, do you guys feel, for you personally, that is a crumbling. Matt's wall is crumbling, and therefore it's like a bit of a fall? Or is that Daredevil bubbling out and busting out? Which one to you is the real alter ego for him?
I think it depends on the scene, because and what's happening, because there's many times where, obviously in the beginning he doesn't really, he feels like it's more damage to be Daredevil. It's not something he wants to be anymore. He's giving up. But obviously he carries the little horn around, he's thinking about it. And it's almost like, that sip of alcohol. Obviously he's saving people, so it's not quite the same thing, but it's like, what's going to happen if he pushes too far? Can he control himself? And I think that's really the question for the viewers. Like, what do they feel like? Is he suppressing, himself as Matt, or is he suppressing Daredevil? Is it doing more harm than good? I love that saying that Nolan had in The Dark Knight. A villain or a hero becomes a villain, or live long enough to see yourself as the villain, or some
either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become a villain.
I knew I messed it up.
Seen that movie too many times.
Yeah, and I think that's a great saying, and I think just in this show, it's very much similar. In some ways, he wants to do good. He has morality, but is that always the right choice to what he makes, and does it end well for him? And I think sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And I think some scenes, we're making the sensation of like, he wants to become Daredevil. He wants to, even there's a scene in episode 2 where he's following a cop, and he's kind of like using his sensibilities, and he's watching, you hear the footsteps and the slow motion, and he's, kind of tracking what's happening. And we wanted to keep like teasing the listener. And several times we had people tell us like, oh, you guys hinted at the Daredevil theme. And there's no Daredevil theme at all played. It literally is just Matt and a tease. That's all it is. And it's just because everybody's expecting it. And that's kind of, it's because Matt himself wants to be Daredevil. And that's sort of the excitement of it all,
Each time I hear it, it makes me step up in my seat a little bit of like, oh, it's coming. He's back. We're here. And
yeah, it's a great theme. I mean, John wrote a beautiful theme, and I everybody gets pumped. So, you got to use it appropriately.
You can also find my and Ryan Cortero's interview with John Paisano up on the Agents of Fandom YouTube page, if you all want to check that out as well. But speaking of, how excited it is hearing the theme and the process for composing Bullseye's theme, I also want to know the creative process behind the big step out into the light of the black tie event when Vanessa and Wilson are both walking out. If I remember correct, I should have wrote better notes. I put Fisk's big entrance, and that's it. If I remember correctly, I heard a choir in the background as these two are coming out. It felt like a very big scene that probably took a lot of time to make sure it was as perfect as it was. What was the process like behind creating the score for that scene in particular?
Yeah, that scene was a lot of work, because there's source music playing. There's also the score that you want to have in places, weaving in and out of the music. And then you've got a lot of sound design, a lot of walla, stuff happening like within the scene. And then you have like what's actually happening in the scene, right? The sort of like, I think the guys did such an awesome job of like directing these scenes where like when they're dancing, like so brilliant of the when he has to cut in and they basically like trade partners, and the dialogue that they're having is just like, it's so awesome. Like, it's does he know, or something about like, do you and I haven't watched this in several weeks now. I will watch it Saturday, but something like Matt saying to Vanessa something like
does he know that Fisk does he know that you got
about Poindexter? Yeah. And then she's like, does Heather know you're Daredevil? Just straight up, just like throws it out there, It's just so like well done, and all while they're dancing and there's things happening around them. I think it's just like such a Yeah, the guys did such a great job of directing this episode because there's so much happening in that whole like last section. It's great.
It's the same music that you hear. You hear it for just like, I don't know, maybe 10 seconds when in the episode 1, I believe, where he goes to grab his suit out of the closet and his hand reaches near the white suit, and then it looks like he's gonna grab the white suit, but then he moves away from it. It's the same music but with choir when they're dancing. So it's yeah, Fisk is, slowly becoming something else, as you are witnessing.
And at the same time as Matt, and it just feels like they're coming together for this epic peak that is going to be the finale, and I'm sure going far beyond that as well. I know you guys are incredibly busy, and so I don't want to hold you for too long. Feel free, if you got to get out of here, to get out of here. The last thing I'll ask is, any other thoughts on the episode and on scoring this series in general? Because truly, and I'm not just saying this because I like you guys, the score very much enhances each episode. Like, it seems like it's such a integral part of the show. It's not background music. It's part of the storytelling.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, thanks a lot. That means a lot. It's we we really don't want to let ourselves down at the like get-go of this, right? We're like, we are very into this story, and so we want to make sure that we do it justice. And a lot of that is like laying back in places, but then also like not ever like being the spotlight of it, but just feeling like we're like sitting in the, feeling like we're sitting in Josie's with everyone and just a part of the tapestry, so that means a lot, because we definitely put a lot of time into, the options of what should be in each scene and what shouldn't be, and it's fun. They tee us up really well with the writing and the directing and the acting. It's really like pretty bonkers. I think Taylor and I were talking the other day just about how like the performances of everyone is just it's insane. Like, and it's the subtleties that happen, even the subtleties of what's happening when they're dancing at the end of this episode. It's just like, it's crazy, but all of that ties into like how you feel at the end of this episode when that song kicks in at the end and you're just like, what? It's really pretty moving, and I think a lot of that has to do with just sort of the culmination of like what the team brings at every sort of turn, what every sort of person is bred. The craft that everyone is bringing to this is really fun because everyone cares so much. So it's great that translates. Anyway, I'm yammering on as I do.
No problem at all on my end. You yammer as long as you like, but I do know that you guys have a very busy schedule and got to get out of here. So thank you so much again for joining us. This has been awesome. Best of luck to whatever you're currently working on, and can't wait to hang out and chat again soon.
Awesome.
Likewise, TJ. Thanks a lot. Damon, great to meet you, man.
Great to meet you,
right
John.
on.
Thank you so much.
All right, TJ.
Have a
Thanks,
great
guys.
rest of the evening, guys. Congratulations on Daredevil Born Again. It is truly a special, special show. And Damon, let's continue into the rest of our breakdown here, where I actually do really want to spend a lot of time on the dance scene at the end of this, but I don't want to skip ahead because we do got some other stuff to talk about before that. We were before talking about how Heather absolutely grills Matt about the Daredevil stuff, and I agree with you. That scene's felt like the perfect time to just
tell her, man.
Let her know.
Tell
the truth. Let her know. But it's immediately, like you talked about, these one-on-one scenes. It's immediately followed up. Why this was not a one-on-one scene. It was almost a two-on-one scene. But we have Vanessa, Fisk, Wilton, and poor Adam in his cage. He finally tells her the truth, and surprisingly, she's the one to pull the trigger.
I don't think it's that surprising.
Or unsurprising.
I don't think it's that surprising. Slightly surprising, maybe, but it seemed right that she was the one to do it because it really feels like this is the Wilson she wanted back in the end. And everything that they did with like poor tracksuit Luca. Man, never be a tracksuit. Poor tracksuit Luca. I still believe there was like a little bit of her sending him to make a message, but it definitely seemed like they were on the same page about it. But there's definitely a little bit of message here just to get him back to who she wants him to be. And to fast forward towards the end of the episode, we get to where he is. The Kingpin does return in this episode, so she wins in the end. Maybe this was all just one long big ploy, TJ.
The long con.
Maybe she knew.
It worked. She's always been able to see through him a little bit, and so maybe she played him to get him back. And I like to see, as much as I hate, Kingpin, and he's a terrible man, he's a phenomenal villain, and I like to see him back. The white suit walking out really just felt like this is no longer Wilson Fisk. This is once again the Kingpin, much like Matt's been bubbling into becoming Daredevil again. He's been bubbling. He couldn't keep it down. He couldn't keep his natural self down for long, and he lets Bullseye out to Gen Pop, and Bullseye says, "Hey, I want to talk to Matt." And it leads to some pretty, before even the scene, it leads to some pretty awesome stuff where I just truly cannot give enough superlatives for Charlie Cox's performance in this episode. Straight to him just absolutely berating the guy that he's supposed to be representing after the whole Poindexter and Heather thing throw him for a little bit of a loop. He's had enough of everyone's shit.
He's unraveled.
He's
unraveled. He is so done with the lawyer. He's so done with it. He tried, and we keep saying this broke him, this broke him, this broke him. Like, that's what the importance, and even like literally listed all the things that have happened in this season, in this episode, that got him to this point. Like Matt said himself, we got Poindexter life. Well, clearly that's not working. Okay, we saved a man's life. Well, he died in the end. Okay. And then it all goes down to the one guy who is in jail for a little bit for just stealing popcorn.
I'm happy they brought that one back up because it shows that when I do my best lawyering and I do everything right, this dude's still in jail for some bullshit.
Exactly. So it shows how he got to this point, which is why I love where the season began to where we are now. It shows the importance of having a longer, even though it's only by a few episodes, as we say. But those 3 episodes mean a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Those 3 episodes mean a lot, and the longer runtime means a lot. So, phenomenal work. Dude's completely unraveled. My only criticism of this episode, only one. I wish we saw Daredevil.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first time this season I'm saying this. Because I think by episode 8, when we haven't seen him that much this season, I think we deserve to see a little bit of it in this one. I get why, but I feel like I've said this quite a bit this season. This is his breaking point. This is his breaking point. No, this is his breaking point.
Murdock's he's broken hard, Damon, but they always get back up.
He keeps getting more and more broken. Now, obviously, we are getting Daredevil in the finale, proper, suited up and everything. It'll probably be a big fight, the thing that I want. But at least it feels earned that we got there at this point.
I love some of the dialogue choices throughout this episode where Kirsten says, I can barely recognize you anymore, as we get the score teasing, and he's falling back into his Daredevil ways, and he's no longer Matt Murdock on the outside either. He's never been good at balancing the two. He is one or the other. And
that's when the best heroes are made. That's what we love about Spider-Man.
Yes.
Right? I literally texted my dad as I'm watching this episode, and I was like, man, this is such a Spider-Man Peter Parker thing. And I mean that in the best way, because that's why we love those characters. Is when they cannot balance their personal lives with their vigilante lives. And that's when you relate to that, when you just can't balance your work life and your personal life. It's stuff like that, right? There's too much going on. You can't balance it anymore. That's great superhero content.
We get Matt in full detective mode later on as well. We get him in lawyer mode, we get him in detective mode. The only thing we didn't quite get was full on Daredevil mode. We got Daredevil mode in terms of the way he was acting and the way he was utilizing his senses to gather information, but not quite in the full fight mode. And I love that he knows Foggy so well. He cherishes their relationship. He remembers this type of alcohol they only drink after a win. And so when Josie says he was drinking that type of alcohol, Matt realizes he was celebrating and something was up. He did not simply die because Bullseye wanted revenge. There was more to this. And so when he finally goes and visits Bullseye, God, that scene was incredible. The way the two of them play off each other, and when Wilson's Bethel's performance as Dex has always been so incredible in the sense that while he's doing all these terrible, terrible things, he's so good at making you feel bad for him. He's so good at just like turning into a wounded puppy,
Yes.
And like, aren't you a good guy? Aren't good guys supposed to protect their worst enemies?
He said in another life,
It's hard hitting considering how this episode finishes. I gotta say, in a lot of times in TV and movies, I feel like profanity is very gratuitous. And like, oh, something's rated R, something's rated TVMA. Let's just throw in a bunch of F-bombs because we can. They are used so fucking well in this show, Damon. And that moment where he says to Dex, he just says, fuck you. Like, it's so perfect. This does not feel like a man acting. This feels like truly somebody at their wit's end interacting with their worst enemy.
Oh, for sure. It's a natural conversation. That's all you really want when you're watching anything, honestly, is for conversations to feel natural. And oftentimes they don't, because you're trying to write a script and trying to tell a story. And when you try and tell fantastical stories, your dialogue's going to be a little off. But when you have a situation like this and you have two characters who just play these characters so well, and you have writers who very clearly know these characters very well as well, it works. And they're able to perform them to a spot where it feels natural. That's the important thing.
If you're just tuning in now for the live show, you're a little late watching Daredevil Born Again. You can find our very surprise special guests, the Newton brothers, who joined us earlier on in the episode to talk about episode 8, their process for scoring the show, their process for scoring Daredevil, for Fisk, and more. That is about 15 minutes into the episode, so you can go back to that if you want, or you can continue now live with us, hanging out in chat. Let us know what you thought about the episode, and you can go back to see that after. All we ask is that while you're here, you smash the like button for us, subscribe to the Agents Fandom wherever you get your podcasts, and of course on YouTube. Follow us on socials at Agents Fandom on TikTok and Twitter, Agents of Fandom everywhere else. Damon, I need to go to your comic expertise for a moment. When we have Jack Duquesne, aka Swordsman, hanging out at this party, obviously the Fisk stuff was the main part with him, but I don't want to just brush under the rug that he has this interaction with a woman named Artemis, which I must say, when I hear the name Artemis from a dude who came from a Hawkeye show, I have thoughts. Are Artemis and Arthur this woman who was flustered and making it seem like there was a big plot that was going to happen at this party when she was talking to Jack Duquesne? Is Artemis someone from comics? Is that anyone we know?
I keep thinking those two are going to be the Stromwinds, and they're not, because it's like their names are like Unal and whatever, but they give Stromwind vibes, which is essentially like two very, very rich people who end up essentially controlling Fisk during the whole like Devil's Reign aspect, which is like a lot of what this show is based on. I got nothing.
It just felt like that scene is going to be coming back in a big way in the future. Maybe I'm aerospace engineering this a little bit too much, but Artemis, Arthur, what is going on? Why are you leaving? I know that was a terrible Jack Duquesne accent. but it just felt like something was up with that, and where if those are not comic characters, we were going to be seeing them again in the future. MTF is saying in chat, Arthur did not seem to be alive anymore, so maybe that's why she was frazzled. Is Arthur's not there because he was dead, and that's all there was. All there was to it. We get all these anxiety-inducing and just terrifying scenes with the police commissioner. He has no power as he's witnessing the task force brutally assault a dude sticking his hand in a hot deep fryer. We see Fisk. You can't help but feel intimidated on Jack Duquesne's behalf, no matter how confident in himself he is, when Fisk is just freaking towering over the dude until Bullseye gets out, causing all the chaos, which we'll get to. It really seems like they got all the control right now.
Oh yeah, I mean, there was a part of me, honestly, when Duquesne and Fisk were in that room talking, when he brings up the swordsman thing. I was like, oh, is he going to recruit him to his little task force and kind of make him one of his little Fisk Thunderbolt type of characters? No, just seemed more of like a big threat, and he's scurrying off with his tail between his legs after that, with all the money that he has. I like that it feels like, we're connecting some things from the Hawkeye show. We've connected some things from some other parts of the Marvel universe to make it feel like New York's alive. And he is a part of New York, a rich part of New York that I'm glad that they've addressed and they are addressing. It makes me optimistic that we may be seeing some other characters on that side of things, maybe further down the line, because there are a lot of rich characters. Who knows? If Fisk can get out of prison, maybe a Mrs. Bishop can as well. Just wearing a certain mask with a QUE. I like that.
You and MTF at the same time with an Eleanor Bishop reference.
Mhm. I would love for Kate's mom to become Madame Mask. I think that is like a perfect MCUification of that character.
Who is Madame Mask, for those who don't know?
I mean, Kate Bishop has like very few, if any, arch nemesis, but she would be one of like the rich people in New York City, has dealt with the gangs, the mafias, the Fisks of it all, and both Hawkeyes have had run-ins with her.
I mean, any way we can get some more Kate Bishop, I would absolutely be thrilled. Should we do a podcast reviewing Sinners? Should we do a Sinners episode?
We need Ryan for that.
We'll need Ryan for sure for that one. We absolutely cannot do a Sinners podcast without Ryan.
We can't.
But
we can't do
I
that.
think that could be fun. We could do a little Sinners review on the show. You have been kind of theorizing all season that Daniel, Fisk's little henchman dude, political henchman, that could turn into the Rose. Yeah.
I don't know anymore.
You don't know anymore. Why not?
Because I feel like he's getting played, man. I feel like he's being set up to be the fall guy at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. As much as I'd like to see him, I would love to see more of this character, because Gandolfini plays this doof so well, where it looks like he's a doof, but at the same time, he's like, I'm smarter than you think I am, and like, I can't read you.
But at the same time, he's just this stupid little boy where it's like he doesn't seem bad. He just believes in this dude so wholeheartedly.
Sometimes he shows that he's smarter than he appears.
Yeah.
So like, that's why I find him fascinating. So I hope he doesn't just become like a fall guy and dies by the end of the season. I'd love to see him in season 2. And if I do see him in season 2, then my whole little like Rose theory becomes a little more. But there's a chance, like I said earlier on, like maybe someone else is kind of like the Rose of it all. When we see Bullseye kind of like in the prison staring at some blue roses, and then there's one character at this black and white ball that had to be different and wear red regular rose. TJ,
Vanessa.
Yeah, I'm getting big Vic vibes, and I'm hoping not though. But I think they could kind of turn Vanessa into like that Rose type of character.
MTF says he thinks Daniel is going to end up killing somebody for Fisk, and maybe we'll see how far those loyalties lie if he's that bad of a dude.
He kept
But
saying,
my
"I
favorite,
kill someone for you," so he said,
not my favorite, but one of my favorite parts of this episode is BB Urich has been 2 steps ahead this whole damn time. She knew Wilson Fisk murdered her uncle. She's been playing Daniel like a little fiddle. And she's been trying to get to the bottom and bring Fisk down. I need Karen to get her ass back to New York and start working with BB to take Fisk down, because I've been like, okay, what's her story? Does she know? Please tell me she knows all throughout the season. And now that I know she knows, and she's just been, the way she said, I got to go back to work. And then it's woo shots. She's just been playing Daniel the whole time. I love it. I love it so much.
I love that she said she writes under different pen names. And
she's been working this thing the whole time.
There's a part of me. So I've been loving Marvel's Ultimate Comics, and that includes Ultimate Spider-Man. And in that book, Uncle Ben is alive. Spoilers, everyone. And he owns a paper company with, guess who? J. Jonah Jameson, TJ. And you know what the pen name is that they write under?
What?
Ben Reilly.
Ah, come on.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's a good way to like get that name under there as like an alter persona. So I'd love to know like what pen name she's writing under.
Schism in chat makes a great point. He doesn't think Daniel's going to die, end up like Vic in the Penguin, but he doesn't think he's going to die like Vic, but he does think he's going to die as it's related to BB writing secret stories, because it looks like Cole North, your boy, saw the whole thing go down.
This is Cole North by name only. That is not Cole. Ugh. He's not a dirty cop, man. Get out of here.
If BB Urich dies in this show,
no chance.
I will riot.
No chance.
Fucking riot.
No chance.
She
will be the one to break the news.
As cool and scary as Muse is, I think she was my favorite new character addition to this show.
What if right before, hear me out, I'm thinking ahead, and I come up with a theory that's wrong every week. So let's hear another one. What if, in order to prevent news about Fisk's underlings and all his terrible things to go out, they pull the ultimate card, and the BB report is a thing that puts out Matt as Daredevil's persona?
Wow. Interesting.
Because that's a story you can't work around that. You can't say no to that.
Very interesting. Very interesting. What do you think about
that? Is the ultimate card that Fisk still has.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think BB can turn it down. I think what we saw from BB today means she cares about bringing Fisk down at all costs. That's what I got from BB in today's episode. So I don't think she could be tempted to turn. Chat speculating right now that one character who could be tempted to turn not to the dark side, not turning heel, as our wrestling fans would say, but turning face, and they think Cole North will become maybe a little more than Cole North in name and actually get off this task force and turn face, as MTF says in chat.
I hope so.
Who is this character other than just the detective that was going after Daredevil? Like, give us some background of who this character is and why he was important to that story and why this dude is not him.
I mean, it's tough to have like a whole backstory on like 2 volumes, but he was the detective that was going after Daredevil when Daredevil did kill a man. Don't forget, Daredevil did kill a man in the comics, and he went after him. He ended up changing his whole tune on vigilantes and Daredevil specifically, and joined Daredevil's forces. That was the Fist in the Great Holy War of the Fist versus the Hand. All the shenanigans happened, and now in current continuity. Cole North and Foggy run a group together. A firm. They run a firm together. It's Nelson and North.
Maybe he's the one who helps turn and take down this task force in season 2. I could absolutely see it coming. And I know I've been speaking in a lot of superlatives throughout this episode, being like, this is incredible, this is the best. And I know it's a little corny to do so, but honestly, this final scene with the dance is one of my favorite MCU scenes. I think like this performance from Charlie Cox, just feeling like, at this point, he is going past the point of no return. It kind of seems like he's throwing Heather to the side and doesn't care about this relationship anymore. And he is just exclusively, I am Daredevil taking down the Kingpin again. And the way the camera switches and pans, it switches frame sizes. It distorts around Fisk and Vanessa as Matt is trying to listen to them. The way that Matt and Wilson have a conversation quietly that no one else can hear. It was truly top tier writing, directing, acting, all of it.
And also Fisk knowing that like when Matt enters the dance floor with Heather, and Fisk like, what are you doing here, devil? Type of thing. Like he knows he can hear him. It's brilliant. Loved that. Love that. The cinematography, the camera changes, going all around. Great. My question to you, TJ, since we've been building up to it, and I think it's time. Who did you think was getting shot?
I don't want to toot my own horn, but I thought it would be Matt or I thought it would be Heather. And I did think that that Fisk, like one of the Fisks would be the target, either Vanessa or Wilson. But I thought that it would go wrong and it would be either Heather or Matt that ended up getting shot. Especially with this is in hindsight that I thought about it. I don't want to say especially with the foreshadowing of when Bullseye said, isn't that what good guys do? Save their worst enemies. No, I was not thinking about that at that time. But in hindsight,
I didn't think about that now until you just mentioned it.
In hindsight, when that clicked, it made me realize like that is the moment that made me go, Matt as Daredevil is a hero. Not a vigilante, not an anti-hero, no matter how much he actually enjoys the violence. Matt Murdock, Daredevil, is a hero because at the end of the day, even if it's your worst enemy, you prioritize. That to me is like the biggest difference between anti-hero and hero. At the end of the day, if your target is right there and saving somebody's life is right here, you pick saving somebody's life 10 times out of 10, whereas the anti-hero is going to take down their target. That to me is kind of the difference between the two. And we see it here. And I really love that it's a callback to the line earlier in the episode. I didn't think that's exactly how it was going to go down, but I did think it was going to be Matt or Heather that ended up getting shot.
I'm sorry. I was fully convinced it was Vanessa. Woman walks out in an all red dress in a black and white gala. I was like, this is too symbolic. She's the red target. And she wasn't.
I'm on a similar vein to MTF where he thought Matt was going to out himself and take out Bullseye publicly. I honestly thought he was going to out himself and take out Fisk. For a moment, I thought he was going to try and kill Fisk at that time. Or if not kill him, reveal himself to be Daredevil to Heather, to Fisk, to the party. I don't know. But the moment he plopped his cane on the server's tray, I was thinking, damn, he's not fucking around anymore. I think the secret might be out at the end of this. But either way, from the dance switches to the conversation to the score in the background to the final shot from Bullseye into Matt. It was an incredible scene. What do you think is going to happen?
Frank is gonna. No, pause. Are you ready? I think we're getting to the point that we have to get to, TJ. I think we're getting to the point we have to get to. I think he's gonna call on Frank next episode. They're gonna go after Bullseye. And Bullseye will die. And it won't be Frank to do it.
Interesting.
It will be Matt. I think we have to get to that point.
What if? Now, bear with me for a second. What if Matt dies, goes to hell as the fist of God, revives Foggy, brings his boy Foggy back, and they both come back to life?
No.
Chip Zdarsky's comic book run.
We're missing a lot there to get to that point. No, it's not happening.
I know.
We're missing a whole holy war. No, thank you.
But it would still I do find it's kind of funny that, technically, that's on the table. I will say my hot take for the finale, something I think we will be getting in episode 9. I think Foggy Nelson will be in this episode. I think we get a Eldon Henson appearance. I think before Matt regains consciousness, whether he's being operated on or whatever, I think he's gonna have a little moment with Foggy where Foggy says, like, it's okay, bud. You go do what you gotta do. Protect this city. I think we're gonna see that. Well, Force Ghost Foggy, exactly. I think that's what we're getting in episode 9. And maybe Elektra too.
I just want Elektra to be alive.
Would you want to see Elektra in the next episode if it meant it was dead Elektra talking to almost dead Matt in the astral plane?
No, because I want Elektra to be alive.
That's fair. I support that one. I really think we're going to see Foggy in episode 9. Clip it, predict it, drop it on socials. That's my hot take for this one. I don't know if it's hot or not, but how do you think? So you actually, I was going to say, how do you think? You gave your full theory for next episode. You think Matt and Frank are going to go after Bullseye. Bullseye is going to be Matt's going to commit murder. Season 2 will be Vigilante Task Force trying to take down Daredevil and Matt Murdock, who the whole world knows who he is. I like it.
I don't think his identity will be revealed.
You don't think his identity will be revealed?
No.
So you think it'll just be specifically Fisk going after Daredevil in public, and he's on the run, even though he's right under Fisk's thumb, and Fisk knows that.
Yes.
Or is this where we get Matthew Murdock district attorney because he just saved the mayor's life?
No, because I think he's done with being a lawyer.
Fair.
I think we still get Kirsten district attorney eventually.
Do you think Karen Page makes an appearance in the finale?
Maybe if he's in a hospital.
That would
he
make
wakes
sense.
up and she's
she
there.
gets word that Matt's in the hospital. That would actually, that would make a lot of sense. One cameo I kind of thought we were going to get throughout the series that we haven't gotten yet was a Claire Temple appearance. I thought she might pop in at some point. I don't know why, since he's not in Daredevil form, he's in Matt Murdock form. He wouldn't just go to the hospital. I'm assuming that's where he goes, and there's no need for Claire there. But maybe she's back working as a nurse. You never know.
Maybe he'll need her in season 2.
Any final thoughts from episode 8, or any more predictions for episode 9? Any other final thoughts in general before we get out of here?
I've been enjoying it. I just want more Daredevil going forward, and I think we're going to get it. I think we've earned at this point more Daredevil, like Matt in the suit.
I agree, 100%. Either way, I am really, really excited for the finale because they set up some really, really exciting stuff with this penultimate. I hope that we don't kind of fall into the now. I've never been as low on the Marvel television finales as I feel like a lot of people have been, but I do hope that this doesn't end up with another penultimate episode is by far the best episode of the season, and it's a bit of a drop for the finale. Having said that, I don't really actually think that's going to be the case here. One more question, one more theory coming from MTF in chat, and I did actually want to bring it up. I forgot. Do we think Swordsman is surviving this season?
Yes.
Yeah, I think he's biting the bullet too. I was trying to type out timestamps. Give me a little more than yes here. How's it happening? Who's taking him out?
Oh no, I said I think he survives.
Oh, you think he survives? Sorry, I think I was thinking he's actually might die. Whereas he basically just says to Fisk, "No, I'm not gonna pay you what you want to get paid," and then he gets taken out.
No, I think he was tail between his legs after that whole conversation. I think he's scared straight.
Does he? I can't remember. You've seen it 706 times. Does he know that his ex-fiance was under Fisk's thumb?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I feel like that
he knows that she framed him.
Right.
So I don't know if he knows exactly the Fisk of it all. Possibly not, but she knows that he was framed.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that does make sense. We will be back next week with more Daredevil Born Again, covering the finale live immediately after it drops next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern time. But that's not our only live show next week. We'll be back Monday, earlier, before we have Daredevil Born Again. I have to go pee so bad. I don't know why I'm dragging the show out. I should have just tried to exit as quick as I can. But I'm going to be honest with you. It's having a really tough time. I can't even speak straight. It's really making me lose my train of thought here, Damon. I'm not going to lie to you.
Clearly.
But we got The Last of Us next week on Monday. We have Daredevil Born Again on Tuesday. Then we have the Comic Corner on Thursday. And then, of course, Andor Season 2 drops the week after. As soon as Daredevil Born Again ends, we will have our Andor live shows. So not to worry, we will be back. Plus the Comic Corner live every Thursday. Damon, I know you're not there this week because you are off to Germany.
Probably not.
But what's coming up?
Absolute Batman. Do you need anything else? Absolute Batman. We get Absolute Mr. Freeze this week, and he is scary. Like Slender Man, but icy.
Scary. Stay tuned for this week's Comic Corner for a review of the new Absolute Batman. No Damon, but you still got Fat Thor and AF joining for that one. Plus a lot of interviews coming up with the Comic Corner, as well as right here on the Agents of Fandom podcast as well. We have multiple interviews with some cast members from Andor that are going to be dropping in the next few weeks. So stay tuned for that. Hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Make sure you follow the Agents of Fandom wherever you get your socials, at Agents Fandom on TikTok and Twitter, and wherever you get your podcasts as well. Thank you so much for tuning in today, everyone. And extra big thanks to the Newton brothers for being our surprise special guests. And hopefully we'll be keeping that up for next week as well. Working on some stuff. Wink, wink, fingers crossed. Don't forget to join us. Thank you so much, everyone. See you next time.
Manifest.